Grillbot, there's been in the last few years, ever since I got rid of the big box retailers and all the stores and all that stuff, that was for me one of the scariest times, but it's proven to be one of the happiest times.
Wow.
I was able to sleep at night and make more money. I'm actually doing better selling direct to consumers through my website, through Amazon, through Walmart.com. And there's a direct correlation between the amount of money you pour into marketing and advertising and what you see come back. So I have, over the last 3 years, 5-10-fold increased TV ad spend, social media ad spend. So that has come back in sales. It is a proven market for it. So in my case, the more I spend, the better I do.
Welcome to another episode of Everything Intellectual Property. Today, we have a very special guest with us. This person has invented the world's first automatic grilling robot. Please help me welcome the founder of Grillbots, Ethan Woods. How is it going, Ethan?
It is going. Every day to me feels like a Monday. So,
oh, man, look at, I thought you were going to say Friday. I'm not sure if every day feels like a Monday.
No, every day feels like a Monday here at Grillbot for sure. But things are good. Things are good. Thanks for inviting me on. I appreciate it.
No, absolutely. And I'm excited for this one just because, a lot of times you see these products that are on maybe commercials or whatever the case may be, and then getting a chance to kind of talk to the brains behind the operation. It's always something that I look forward to. So I guess for the guests who's maybe listening, whether it's on the podcast or kind of the full video version, can you kind of explain, and haven't maybe seen a commercial or whatever the case may be, can you explain Grillbots to them and what it is that it does?
Sure. Well, first of all, Grillbot is for anybody who loves barbecuing, but they hate cleaning up and scrubbing the grill. So this is simply a robot. Think of the Roomba for your grill, basically. You just press a button, close the lid, and Grillbot will do all the scrubbing and clean up for you. It's really as easy as that. There's just a timer button. You could set it for 10, 20, or 30 minutes. It's heat resistant up to 250 degrees. So you can put it on a warm grill. And the brushes pop off, go in the dishwasher. We start everyone off with nylon brushes. They're really powerful. They're really strong, and they last actually the longest. But if you want a deeper, intense clean, we have brass. We even have stainless steel brushes, which is more like industrial strength. So we kind of cater to anybody's style. Some people really just like a little clean. Some people want a deep clean.
No, nice. And I definitely, I'm not maybe a huge griller just because I leave that to the professionals, but I love a good.
You like the barbecue.
Yeah, exactly. I love the finished product, but yeah, it seems like that's always a common theme, regardless of where I kind of consume the barbecue from, is cleaning the grill. Obviously, the person who has been grilling out, typically grilling is not like a 30-minute thing or an hour thing. Typically, you're on the grill for some hours, and to be able to have to clean it after the fact is like, man, just adds a little extra work or a lot of extra work that seems like this product definitely solves. How long does it typically take to actually clean? Or I would imagine it depends on the size or whatever the case may be. But typically, how long does it take to clean the grill?
Yeah, well, sure. I mean, like I said, everybody has a different sense of what clean is. And it's got 3 timers set. It's 10, 20, or 30 minutes. But it is a set and forget device. So the idea behind it is when you're done cooking and you take the food off, you just throw the Grillbot on, hit the button, and walk away. And you're going to dinner, you're in the house or at the picnic table, wherever you are, and you're enjoying your meal, and Grillbot's cleaning up while in the background. So you're not standing around waiting for it to be done, which is nice. But I think we've all had that experience where you've prepped the food in the kitchen, you're excited to get your barbecue going, you walk out there, you lift up the lid, and the grill's just dirty and it's a mess. That momentum. Find the brush if you have one that's not broken or flattened or whatever, and start cleaning the grill. So the Grillbot really solves this problem easily.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, and it seems like the best time to clean the grill is when it's a little bit of heat in the grill, as opposed to you're trying to clean it from a cold state, which seems like would be a lot more difficult.
Yeah, I've been using Grillbots for 10 years. Matter of fact, some of my first prototypes 10 years ago, I'm still using.
Really?
Yeah. I think I've replaced the battery on a couple of them, but they like take a licking, My routine is I'll throw the Grillbot on for 10 minutes before I cook, and then I'll do 10 or 20 minutes after, and I always have a clean grill.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. So then from a maintenance process, is it really just simple as, okay, disconnecting the legs to kind of put them in a dishwasher and kind of
Take the
going
brushes
about your
off, they
day?
pop off. They're a quick release. You just take the
Wow.
brushes off, throw them in the dishwasher, and you're done.
Nice, nice, nice. And I would imagine that.
Every about 75, 100 cleanings, you replace the brushes.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. I would imagine that it's used is good for both the gas grills as well as charcoal. I know, kind of where I come from. Typically, charcoal is a thing, but I know a lot of people more so use gas.
As
For this.
charcoal,
Yep.
pellet grills, infrared
Mm,
grills. It'll
yep.
even work on black stones, flat tops, things like that.
Nice.
But it has to have a lid. Grillbot does not come with a drop-off sensor. So if you don't have a lid to keep it in the grill,
Yeah.
that's the only caveat is you need to have a lid on the grill to keep it in.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to ask you what was the reason for the grill having to be closed, but it seems like that's kind of keeping it from kind of going over
Rolling
the
off.
top there.
Right. Yeah. It was really, we tried. It's very difficult trying to come up with capacitor sensors
Yep.
or a way to tell the grill bot that the space between the surface of the grill grates and the edge, there's a difference between that, and it wasn't picking that up. Plus, it's hot and greasy
Yep.
with chunks of debris on there. It was just too difficult. So you simply close the lid.
Oh, and that makes sense. I guess the only time I've seen a lidless grill is really at the parks. Typically, those kind of grills are kind of don't have a lid.
Whether it's a charcoal round Weber grill or
Yep.
whatever, most of them have lids. Yeah.
Exactly. So it seems like that's hopefully the lid hasn't broken off. I've seen crazier things.
People
So
love
they
it.
kind of
Like their pet, they're like, they can't, once you have a Grillbot, you really can't live without it. You're so accustomed to just pressing a button now. And so, yeah, it's pretty funny the comments that we get from people.
no, and that's interesting. I kind of think back of Steve Jobs, and he obviously coming up with the iPhone, and people not knowing that they kind of the power, the need for the iPhone back then. You have the Blackberries, whatever the case may be. But then him saying, "Hey, people don't need they don't know what they need until you tell them." So it seems like they don't know that this thing is really life changing until you put it in their hands and they're using it, and it's like, okay, I can't go without it.
Where was this all my life?
Right. Exactly. So then from an inspirational standpoint, kind of reading a story about kind of how did you come about this, but can you kind of share that with the audience as far as how did this kind of aha moment, so to speak, kind of come about for you to kind of say, okay, I need to create this product to solve this particular issue?
Yeah, sure. It definitely was an aha moment. For me, it's kind of an interesting story because I grew up in Manhattan, and here in the city, you're not allowed to grill. Yeah, there's no grilling here. I mean, occasionally people have a little hibachi or something on their balcony or whatever, but buildings don't allow it. And so I have a house up in the country, a log cabin. I go up there. It's about 2.5 hours away. And I was up there one time and I was getting ready to barbecue. We were having friends come over, my wife and I, and I went out to the grill, and the brush, the bristles were completely flat and wouldn't clean the grill. And I was really kind of annoyed, and I didn't want to have to go driving down the road to the store to get a new brush. And people were coming over. So I remembered in my garage, I had a round bristle metal brush that attaches to a power drill. So I'm like, all right, let me see if I can use that. So I took the power drill, I put the round bristle brush on it, stood out at the grill. This was an old power drill too. It was a plug-in. I had to get a long extension cord. It weighed 100 pounds, not 100, but it was really heavy. And I'm sitting there holding my arm up, like scrubbing the grill with this. And I'm just thinking how stupid this is. Why can't you just press a button? Literally, that's what I said to myself. And that was the aha moment. Why can't you just press a button? And then the rest, I don't want to say was history because it took 3.5 years of development and all my life savings and more to get it to market. So it was a long, arduous learning curve with a ton of mistakes from the aha moment to final production and actually getting it out there.
So I have to ask you this now. Do you regret, I guess, the moment, or just kind of going through? I don't want to say do you regret it. I think I'm framing it probably incorrectly. But I guess would you do it again would probably be a better, knowing what you know now and the ups and the downs and everything that you have to go through to kind of, especially with this particular type of product. Would you kind of do it again is, I guess, the interesting question.
Well, knowing what I know now, I am doing it again. I'm about to launch 3 new products. It's been a long time coming. I can't announce them yet, but this Christmas, I'm hoping we're getting ready to shoot a whole bunch of TV commercials. And it's a very exciting time here because it's been many, many years. I didn't want to be a barbecue product, a company that sold the basting brushes and the spatulas, the same as all the others do.
For sure.
So I only wanted to come up with items that I created or invented. And I finally have developed some pretty interesting, exciting 3 new products that are going to be coming out this year, hopefully. But to answer your question, it really depends on when you ask that question. Right now, sure, I would do this again. But there were times, and there were long periods of times where it was a tear jerking, frustrating, not sleeping, uh, furious and angry at the world and the people around me, where I wouldn't do it again. I've had some horrible situations, and people steal from you, and it's been a very up and down road, and a lot of down. And I went through that, and now I'm sort of at a much better place with the way the business is running and operating, having learned those lessons, and they're in my rear view.
No, and that's, it seems like just from an entrepreneurship, at least kind of me running into or working with entrepreneurs or inventors or whatever the case may be, is seems like, getting bit by that bug, they kind of always have something else going on. Or when I say something else, they have other kind of products or whatever the case may be that they're working on. Like you said, it can kind of, maybe a lot of that is dependent upon the time that you ask them, because like you said, it can be the ups and the downs of entrepreneurship, maybe a lot more downs than ups. But in your case, it had to be a very different thing because you were successful in real estate in the New York area. So then to go from having a ton of success doing that to all of a sudden, I would imagine that you had maybe no prior experience inventing and kind of going through that process. But so then be able to switch from real estate, I don't want to say switch, but to go from real estate to this, inventing, and then not having a lot of success, at least early on, that had to be like an eye-opening experience.
It was. And, real estate, I did it for 16 years. I would say the first 10 years were great. And then I really just didn't like it anymore. And I got to a point where I really didn't like it. And so I was always in my mind, I was always inventing new products. And occasionally over the years, I've seen things come to market where I'm thinking, hey, I thought of that, and so I just felt like I could do something else with my life rather than just be unhappy with the current situation. And so it was definitely part of the motivation for me to pull the trigger and make that switch. And it was gradual. I still stayed in real estate for a certain length of time while I was in development, because like I said, it took over 3 years to develop it. And then it started growing and metastasizing, and got to a point where I couldn't do both. And so it was a lot of risk. You have to have the sort of the wherewithal to take a lot of risk. Even today, I'm taking tons of risks all the time.
No, for sure.
Scary. Yeah.
So what made you say, okay, because I had saw in between time kind of importing some product from China and then kind of selling them at trade shows or whatever the case may be. So was that kind of just in between time as the product was developing, or kind of what made you have that kind of experience before, I guess, going full time into the Grillbots?
Oh, you mean the trade shows?
Yep, exactly. Selling the products at the trade shows. I had kind of read somewhere that you were doing that for a time period. So was that kind of as you were developing Grillbots or the actual product?
So what I decided to do was, and I should have sent it to you. It's that the History Channel had a TV show called $1 Million Genius, and we were one of the first episodes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and in about 7-8 minutes, they showed the first trade show and the launch of Grillbot. Moving on. It was kind of a brief explanation of what I went through. So basically, when I had working prototypes that weren't even 100% done, I decided I was going to introduce it to the world at one of the largest trade shows in America called the International Home and Houseware Show, which is in Chicago at their convention center. So nobody had heard of it. I bought a little 10x10 booth, got some grills, set it up with my coworker friend, Sean, creative director. And we got to the show in Chicago, and it was like the day before, and the factory overseas we still hadn't received the samples.
Really?
They were supposed to send like 5 Grillbots or whatever. And I didn't have a chance. Not only you have to charge the batteries, you have to test them, you have to make sure brushes aren't falling off it, that it works. So I'm sweating bullets, whatever. The morning of the show, they show up. Literally, like right on time. They literally show up. I mean, it was a huge relief, but I was also scared because there's a lot of media there at the International Home and Houseware Show. And we ended up being the paparazzi was 10 deep in our booth. We won like the innovation award. We got invited on all the major networks. I mean, it was unbelievable. I just wanted to sort of judge interest, to gauge the interest in the product. And we just blew it out of the water. It was the most exciting time, that those early stages. If I had a million units in a warehouse, sitting in a warehouse at that time, we would have sold them out. All the retailers, everybody wanted it, but all I had were prototypes. I just had a few prototypes. It took a year from that show to get the first working production ready.
Really?
Yeah. So you imagine you got all this hype, and then I'm putting everybody on hold. Bed Bath and the whole, I don't want to start naming names, but Home Depot, all these places wanted to place orders and we couldn't take them. And it was, so, what are you going to do? You're going to, have a warehouse filled with inventory and hope that it sells really well. I'm kind of going through that decision now. I've got 3 new products I'm going to be launching and I haven't really test marketed them. I think they're going to do really well. So I'm ordering a small amount. And if they sell out for Christmas, great. But it won't be enough, and I'll just have to go into next year with that knowledge, So it's, like I said, it's a lot of risk. You can end up with a warehouse full of inventory that nobody wants.
Yeah. So, but how do you balance that, I guess, as an entrepreneur? Because, I mean, you hear that story a lot where it's like, okay, you're going on these promo runs, so to speak, trade shows, whatever the case may be. And, say you get this big media hit and next thing you know, you're on all these kind of media outlets and the buzz and the hype is through the roof. But either you don't have maybe the actual product yet because these are kind of prototypes, or you have a warehouse that has some product, but maybe it's not nearly as enough or not nearly as much as the demand. But again, you want to take advantage of the demand, but not overexpose yourself with having all these products. How do you balance that as an entrepreneur?
Well, a lot of the decisions are financial. What can you afford? There's a huge expense with all this. And then it's your risk aversion. How much risk are you willing to take? Yeah. And there's no formula. I can't give advice on that. I don't think I've run or started this business or continue to run this business in the traditional way. I don't have investors. I don't have mentors. I don't have partners. It's just me, and I hire people as I need them, sort of independently. And I kind of go with my gut all the time. And your guard is up. Because early on, when you don't know what you're doing, everybody wants their hand in your pocket. Everybody wants the upside. Nobody wants the downside. I've had a lot of offers for businesses or other companies to buy me out or to partner with me. And the theme is always the same. We don't want the risk. We just want the reward. Give you some money now, more, and so I've decided I'm just going to continue to grow my business and down the road, we'll see what happens. But, so there's no formula for this. It's really just how much risk you're willing to take, how much you can afford, and how much you believe in what you're doing,
No, and I think that, the last thing you just said, I was going to mention that you must really believe in a product. Cause again, you were talking about investing hundreds of $1,000s of your own money and kind of taking mortgages out on a house and then kind of be able to do all that and really all in and not necessarily do the traditional route with making investors money or whatever the case may be. Either you just really believe in a product or you kind of don't necessarily want to got the horror stories of, okay, this person took my company, took my product because they, someone signed some paperwork and really didn't understand the intricacies of it. So I guess which camp do you fall in terms of, okay, just going all in with your own personal funds without necessarily kind of trying to get the help from other people to at least kind of de-risk your your investment into it?
Well, I feel like it's not that I don't play well with others, but if I had partners who had a different way they wanted to run things, I could see a lot of problems with that. And I've really just wanted throughout to retain and maintain ownership of the business.
Gotcha.
I like taking advice from a lot of different people. The more advice, the more different eyes that see this and give me opinions or their, advice, I take that and I use that. I don't just have my own vision of this. I seek out what I can from others. Gotcha. Because you can't be, the assumption is you have to be an expert in everything with this. Oh. You're just not. You're not an expert in logistics and marketing and sales and financing and all of that stuff. And so you need to get advice where you can. But you also have to take it with a grain of salt because people have an ulterior motive.
Oh, you're exactly right about that. So then from just the IP perspective, because I would imagine that coming from real estate, it maybe wasn't a ton of IP, particularly patents. So was this something that you kind of knew on the front end or beforehand, or was it like the school of hard knocks learning about patents and trademarks and all that stuff as you're looking to protect it? Because that's what I see a lot of times as an IP attorney where people go wrong is because they didn't necessarily protect the product at all, or they didn't protect it the right way, or they didn't protect it maybe as soon as they needed to, and that kind of can cause problems later down the line. So somebody such as yourself, who's kind of doing everything at this point on your own, when did that become important to you, and did you already know about IP beforehand?
Well, I've always heard about it. I didn't know a lot about it. Real estate, you don't need it for anything, IP protection. So for me, it was an eye-opening experience, and it was a very costly experience. I decided with Grillbot that I was going to go all in on IP, meaning it wasn't just design, but it was utility, patents, it was copyright and trademarks. And it wasn't just in the US. It was Canada, Mexico, it was Europe, most countries in Europe, Scandinavia, even Asia-specific countries, because I knew factories and component parts were being made in those areas. And so I spent, I'll just tell you, it was over $500,000 in all the IP because it took a long time and there was a lot of it. I could show you Excel files where I have 5 or 6 pages of all of the protections that I have in place. And it was probably overkill because I didn't know what I was doing.
Gotcha.
And sure, I don't know if the attorneys, no offense, for selling me a bill of goods or whatever, but it was extremely costly. And I would say the biggest eye-opener for me, or the thing that I didn't realize, is that having this IP protection is great, but you better be able to afford to defend it. And for a long time, I wasn't. And I'm not even sure I am now, because a big company could come in, steal your IP, and drag you out in court for years. And if you don't have the millions of dollars to defend it, what good's that IP?
Well, and I'll tell people all the time, if you're not going to at least send a cease and desist letter or not willing to defend your IP, then it's probably not worth getting, just because that's, it's only as good as, you're willing to defend it. But I guess on the flip side of that, and this is a great question to ask you, how do you kind of reconcile that? Because to the extent that you have no IP or nothing that's going to protect, not saying that you need it for your case as it relates to investors, but a lot of times investors want to see that it's something that's protectable there. But then number 2, you kind of want to build a moat around your product so that it's not as easy for other people just kind of to duplicate. And we all know that maybe a lot of companies in China are going to always illegally do things anyway, but if you don't have anything that's protected and it becomes a hot commodity, other people imitators are going to flood the market. And if you don't have anything to say, hey, stop, then it's almost like, why even go into business at all at that point? Because it's only a matter of time before, you're going to be outcast or whatever the case may be.
So in my case, I don't have investors, so it's kind of my own decision in this regard. But I was lucky enough in the case of Grillbot that it's actually a complicated product to build and expensive to build. They're not cheap, these Grillbots. By the time they landed here, I'm not going to talk money, but they're very expensive. So that dissuades a lot of companies from trying to steal when it's difficult to build and it's expensive, and they know you have IP protection. Those 3 things have safeguarded me over the years with this. Now I've got some new products coming out. Honestly, one of them for sure, I am not going to put any protections on. It's easy to copy. It's cheap, not cheap, but in build quality, but it doesn't cost a lot to produce one.
Right.
And I don't want the headache of trying to protect something like what one of these. Now the other 2 are more involved. They're expensive. There's a lot of technical aspects to it. There's batteries. There's apps, the Bluetooth. There's all kinds of stuff going on with it. So they're not as easy. They're kind of like Grillbot in the sense that they're not easy to duplicate and they're expensive. So I'm putting patents on those, but one of them not. So you have to kind of say to yourself, well, what's the reality here? Is it easy to copy? How much is it going to cost me? Do I want a patent just in the US, or do I want to cover all of Europe and then all that? It's a lot of stuff going on that I never knew about before. And I'm no expert now. So I just kind of feel my way through it, talk to the attorneys about it and see where it's at.
Oh, and that's one of the things, the question that you did answer. I was going to ask about kind of just being able to file a PCT application or kind of nationalize it in different countries, just because obviously grilling is just not an American thing. Talked about protecting it in Canada and Mexico and Europe and other countries, because grilling is more of a worldwide thing. But it's interesting also that you kind of talked about maybe your approach, at least up until this point in time, has been, okay, if it's kind of difficult to reproduce and maybe expensive, then it's worth putting a patent on. But to the extent that it's a little easier to reproduce with the one of the three products that you're looking to come up with, then we're not going to kind of protect it. And it seems like maybe just I don't want to say okay, but just going to say, hey, to the extent that somebody wants to kind of duplicate it, then it almost is what it is. I almost thought that it'd be maybe the opposite approach, where, hey, if it is simple enough, then maybe I do protect it. But if it's kind of involved enough to think that people are going to be deterred anyway from doing it, then I'm less likely going to be protecting it by way of a patent. But so it's interesting, as I kind of hear you, it seems like take that reverse approach on things.
Probably because I'm dyslexic.
No. I mean, but again, it's no kind of one. There's no one answer or one size that fits all. That's the great thing about entrepreneurship that I love, is
one size fits all for sure. Yeah, everybody's
and you can still have success in either of these kind of ways of doing things. It's not like, okay, just because you did it this way or did it that way, it means it's going to kind of spell your downfall. It's like, no, you can have success both ways. I know a lot of people, a lot of times with kind of my clients, like, okay, do you even want to put a patent on that at all? You see the shirt, the trade secrets, this is better protected by way of a trade secret, to the extent that it's a process or whatever the case may be. That a lot of times can be more effective than a patent, because number one, it lasts for, to the extent that you can continue to keep it a secret, such as the formula for Coca-Cola. But I guess that the other part of it is, to the extent that somebody can't kind of reproduce it, then that always kind of helps out, or in terms of it leaning to being a trade secret as opposed to a patent.
And then even the type of patent. I mean, a design patent apparently is easier to copy or mimic or whatever, but a utility patent's more the crown jewel, and that's the one you really want. It's the utility patent, but
sure.
So yeah, I mean, it's also difficult because when you do get a patent, you have to maintain that patent. So it's costing you money continuously, and so when you have a lot of different countries involved, and just seeing those bills come in, you're like, how important is this?
For sure. And that's almost maybe a better conversation to have up front. Like, okay, yeah, we can protect it in all these different countries, but know that you have to pay maintenance fees. I would probably say Europe and maybe US are kind of a little bit more expensive compared to other countries. But you're going to have to pay maintenance fees and,
well, that's that, attorney fees and
right, yeah, exactly.
So free, that's for sure.
Yeah, right.
But I would also say, whether you have a patent or not, like especially when you don't have a patent, one of the best things I recommend is speed to market. So if you have an idea and you're ready to launch, like right now, I like the one product of the three that I'm not going to patent was actually ready last year.
Oh, wow.
And I've held it back because I don't want to just launch that. I want to launch other products as well. So now I have the other two, and I'm going to launch them all at the same time. I'm going to have inventory in my warehouse, and I'll be able to go right onto the market immediately. So by the time somebody else decides they want to, infringe on me or copy that, they're a year out.
Yep.
It takes a long time to copy somebody and go and do these things. So speed to market's key.
Yep. And then I do think that a form of IP that's underrated, especially when you're talking about patents, is trademarks. A lot of times, if you can build a brand, say Grillbot, I would imagine that you have that name trademark protected. A lot of times that is a big part of kind of your product in a business, is that whole branding aspect of it. Even though you may don't have patents on the products, to the extent that people know your brand, they're more willing to buy from that brand because it's a trusted brand. It's a brand of quality, as opposed to some brand that has a similar product and but they don't necessarily know the quality and the value that they're going to get compared to going to Grillbots and getting that product.
A good example is Roomba. iRobot, they've got vacuum cleaner. They were the first. They have the brand. And so people, when they buy a different brand, they'll say, I have a Roomba. And that's an iRobot brand. And they may not have a Roomba. They'll have Roborock or whatever the other companies are. So yeah. The branding is key. I mean, the most identifiable keyword for us on Google searches and all that is the word Grillbot. People see it on TV or whatever, social media. So the branding is absolutely key. So I protected that with the copyrights and trademarks.
Nice. So it seems like you definitely have a little bit of everything with regards to the intellectual property. I guess in terms of the business, I guess a two-part question that I always like to ask. What was the biggest maybe challenge that you had to overcome up until this point with the business? And again, a lot of kind of reading, you guys started in January of 2014. So it's not like kind of you just started last year, a couple of years ago. You guys been at it for a while. So I guess on one side, what was the biggest challenge that you guys had to overcome? And on, I guess, the flip side, what was the biggest kind of breakthrough that it was like, okay, this is going to really take us to the next level?
Honestly, money. Money was the biggest challenge. And I think with any startup or any small business, especially if you don't have partners or investors or anything like that, money was the challenge. It still is today. And I don't like to borrow if I don't have to. And without other people in the circle investing, it's all on my shoulders. And it's been a tremendous challenge for me from day one, as nothing but risk. It's kind of like either you make it or you break it. And things have gone really well, but I'm certainly not there yet. And so money has always been the biggest challenge. I know it's probably not the answer you're looking for, but there are so many things that you don't think about when you start a business that cost so much money. From factories overseas to storing logistics, shipping containers, marketing and advertising, staffing, keeping the lights on, all of it adds up. And you need to sell a lot of inventory to pay those bills. And so it's been a challenge. The most rewarding, or the flip side of that?
The biggest breakthrough that you had up until this point in time?
With Grillbot, there's been in the last few years, ever since I got rid of the big box retailers and all the stores and all that stuff, that was, for me, one of the scariest times, but it's proven to be one of the happiest times. I was able to sleep at night and make more money. I'm actually doing better selling direct to consumers through my website, through Amazon, through Walmart.com. And there's a direct correlation between the amount of money you pour into marketing and advertising and what you see come back. So I have, over the last 3 years, 5-10-fold increased TV ad spend, social media ad spend. So that has come back in sales. It is a proven market for it. So in my case, the more I spend, the better I do.
Right. And I love that, what you just said, just because a lot of people, the whole kind of holy grail of kind of their business and their product is getting off into big box retailers, whether it's a Walmart or Sam's Club, whatever the case may be. But you hear that a lot of times, and that's one of the reasons for the show is, hey, with the e-commerce platforms and kind of social media, your own website, you can go DTC and really see a lot more success compared to you being in a big box retailer and just kind of taking advantage of that. That as well as, like you said, the advertising spend, to be able to spend money and kind of see that come back in
I've always heard
sales
that
as well.
Yeah, I've always heard that, once you start signing deals with the retailers, that's it. You can retire. And I mean, maybe there's some instances of that, but in my experience and people I've heard from, it can ruin you. Yep. I mean, they're crooks. They really are. They'll damage and break or lose inventory to take it off the invoice. They'll do terrible things. They'll place large orders and have you build displays and then not buy them from you or take them from, and they don't care. They just want to throw things out there, what works, and so I was not a firm believer in them. I was disenchanted after a few short years, and I'm like, I'm done with this,
For sure. Then on the worst side, and again, it seems like your product was a saving grace just because of the amount that goes into kind of building a product. But a lot of times they will see a product that's doing good, and next thing you know, they have their version of that product, whether it's, I don't want to kind of call out any names specifically of retailers, but they would come out with their version of that product to kind of take away sales. And then obviously they're not
rather than compete against you.
Exactly. They don't have to pay against the pay for the store shelf, the shelf space and all that you have to pay for. So now they can price it, they can undercut your price. And it's a dirty world out there once you start kind of paying attention to what's going on.
One thing I should mention that people don't realize that I was really shocked about is that if you're selling into retail, Doesn't matter if it's a large store or a large chain or a mom and pop store or anything in between. If you're selling retail, you can bet every single one of them, even the majors, they change their names up. They're going to list it on Amazon, eBay, and those sites in the submarkets. And so grill bots were flooded all over those secondary markets. And the way those platforms online work is whoever has the lowest price on a product wins the buy box. And the buy box is like the crown jewel. You want the buy box. You sell the most. So that was forcing the pricing down all the time for grill bots, where it became not profitable.
Yeah.
And so that, people don't realize that. Even the bigger stores have accounts on Amazon and eBay and these other places, and they're selling your products there under a different name and stuff. And so once I got rid of all that and dried it up, things were much, much better for us.
I see, and look at this. This is these are jewels that I think could be helpful for that person that is watching it and kind of want to get off into the game. Another thing that I was going to ask you too, how you deal with it, because again, the product is more or less a seasonal. I mean, it's still obviously people are grilling year round, especially now these days. But I guess by kind of, I don't want to say expert opinions, whatever the case may be, it can be considered a seasonal product. So just kind of what would you say to that as far as kind of what has helped you out specifically with regard to your product, even though it kind of may be looked at as a seasonal product to some people?
It's interesting. When I started, that's what I thought. It's summer grilling. It's a seasonal product. Sure, there's people who grill in the fall or the winter, maybe even a little bit, but primarily summer. The biggest selling time of year for us consistently is the Christmas holidays. End of year holidays, we blow it out of the water, and Father's Day. Father's Day is number 2. So the 6 or 8 weeks leading up to Father's Day, 6 or 8 weeks leading up to Christmas, I probably do 75% of my sales.
Wow.
And it's a huge gift item. It's a unique product. It's in kind of the right price points, $100, $120, and it's in a cool box packaging. And it kind of reeks gift, like it's just a gift item. And so, plus women are buying it for the men in their lives. They're all
for sure.
Fathers, their boyfriends. It's just a great gift item. So summertime does all right, but nothing in compared to Christmas and Father's Day.
And that's another cool thing about this, because you would think that sales will be through the roof summertime. People are ready to start grilling consistently throughout the summer, but it's like, no, Father's Day, which I guess Father's Day is in the summertime, but Christmas is in the wintertime, obviously in December, which is still a big holiday. And shouts out to the women. And it seems like us men, we're a little bit more calculated in terms of what we're buying and not trying to overspend. But those women go out and they spend like crazy. So shouts out to them for getting it for their spouses or partners or whatever the case may be.
And now with their 100 million followers, I'll get even more exposure out there. It's strong. I love it. Yeah, but that's what I thought too. I thought for sure summertime was going to be rocking and rolling, and then it was going to die down all the rest of the year. And it was just going to be seasonal, and it just hasn't been that way at all.
Nice. Oh, yeah, that's good stuff. So I let that be a word out there to anybody who has a quote-unquote seasonal product. Gifting, different holidays, it can still be something that's extremely kind of valuable or profitable.
It is that you're watching, and because I didn't think that through at all. So it's going to add a bonus for sure.
Nice. So then I guess just kind of wrapping up with the final couple questions here. And I know you talked about the new products, and at some point I'll have to have you kind of bring you back once those come out. But I guess for aspiring entrepreneurs, what advice would you give to them? So someone who's maybe kind of doing this double dutch, do I get off into the entrepreneurship game? Do I not get off into the game? I guess one question I always get, and if I had $1 for every time somebody told me this, I'll be a millionaire in terms of I have an idea. As soon as they find out that I'm an IP attorney or a patent attorney, they say, I have an idea. And even to your point, you talked about it earlier in the interview, where a lot of times people, they have something in their head, and if they don't do anything about it, at some point, somebody else is going to do it about it. So you talked about seeing stuff that you thought about at different points later down the line, kind of being products and things like that. So everybody has some type of creative idea based on something that they're going through or whatever the case may be. So what advice would you give to those aspiring entrepreneurs on whether or not to kind of get off into the entrepreneurship game or to not get off into it?
Yeah, good question. Well, it's tricky because, once you tell somebody your ideas, they're no longer your ideas. So you have to be careful about who you trust and who you don't.
Even from a patent perspective. So not only just from like that side of things, but, and I would imagine that, from a patent perspective in the US, they give you a registration period.
You've already shared with the world what you're going to do.
Yep.
Once it's out there publicly, you're gonna have a really hard time actually getting a patent on it.
For
So
sure.
you have to be careful at the beginning, keep it close to the vest. Talk to an inner circle of people, advisors, sign them and have them sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. I have a whole stack of them. You can download one on your computer and just put your name, date, and address and theirs. And everybody I've talked to signs an NDA, and
Sure.
it just adds a layer of protection. Don't do what I did. I went in alone. I really just didn't want the partners and the headaches that I thought I was going to have with that. And I went in by myself. And in business, they always talk about the smart people use other people's money, and I didn't do that. So I guess I'm a good person to ask the advice on, because I made those mistakes, and I can advise against doing that. So I would start out by saying, don't go it alone. If you can avoid spending your own money, that's great. I have a really good friend, David, who had a great idea for a product. I'm not going to mention it, who he is, but he went into business with his rich uncle, or I forgot who he was. And even though it was David's idea, his uncle or cousin put up the money for it. It wasn't a lot of money, but he put up the money for it and just took it over and shut David out completely.
Really? And you hear those stories. You definitely hear those stories.
Relative. That was and it was a horrible situation and not very nice. And you always want to look in the good in people, but when money's involved, sometimes it gets pretty nasty. So he had a bad experience with it. It didn't do well because the cousin ran it into the ground or whatever, but at least David didn't lose his own money. He just lost some time. So I would say, don't do it alone. Try to get other people interested and invested in it financially and with their time, and come up with a business plan. I hired a company early on to develop a business plan with me, and that's how I started. I forgot the second part of your question. I was going to mention, what was it that I forgot. But what was the other part?
Then I guess the second part to it, or maybe the final question was and maybe the most important question, how can people follow you as well as, more importantly, purchase the product?
Oh, well, grillbots.com or grillbot.com. I own the domains. You can go there. You can go to Amazon. You can just Google search, automatic grill cleaning or robot grill cleaner, and we'll pop up all over the place with that for sure. And we'll probably introduce some discounts in the coming weeks. Actually, end of summer discounts are coming up too. So we like to give people, it is an expensive product. It's an investment. I recognize that. But like I said, I have grill bots that are 10 years old that work just fine. You just replace the brushes, And by the way, it does come with a rechargeable battery, so you don't have to deal with anything. You just with a power cord, you just charge it up. So grillbots.com or Amazon and type in Grillbot, and there you go.
And to be honest, I know you had talked about, I think maybe $120 or whatever the case may be, just from kind of interviewing people over the kind of year or so. It seems like that's a bargain rate these days. I've seen products $300, $400, $500, which is like, wow, that's kind of getting up there. But if you're talking about something that's going to be just over $100, that's going to last for 10 plus years, kind of going back to what I was saying with a whole kind of people stealing it and kind of not really having a product that is as quality as yours. That's again, have a
times your
dollars. Say that, yeah, right, exactly.
$20, $25 for Grillbot, for a good brush. You're replacing that.
It's definitely going to pay for itself. It sounds like over time.
There is nothing worse than scrubbing your grill by hand and then having it break on you, or the bristles flatten out, or the handle breaks, and then you're stuck, and you're just like. So never a problem with Grillbot, for sure. So
nice. And as you even mentioned earlier, and as an attorney, I'm more so worried about my time. If I can save 30 minutes, whatever the case may be, having to clean a grill before and after, and I can kind of do something else. Hey, that's worth $100 all day, in my opinion.
That's where the world's going, right? Vacuum cleaners and everything else. You push a button, walk away, you're happy. That's what this is.
It was cool because I knew we were going to do this today. And yesterday I was kind of driving along the highway. At least here in Michigan, you have the grass, but it's on like an angle because it goes from an angle down to the road on the highway. And they have, at least here in the state of Michigan, in the Detroit area, they have these little kind of lawnmowers, automatic lawnmowers that are just kind of cutting the grass that is on an angle by themselves. they had some people that I guess was overseeing things, but they were kind of automatic, kind of lawnmowers cutting the grass at the same time.
So lounge chair drinking their Mai Tais or whatever.
So I do put it that we're definitely as a society going towards more of the automatic stuff. So it seems like you're way ahead of the curve coming out with the product 10 plus years ago. So shouts out to you for that. Well, audience, hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Ethan, he had a lot of jewels that he dropped throughout it. So hopefully you guys have the pens and the notebooks out taking notes. Maybe you have to kind of watch this again because there was so much value in it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. As I talked about, definitely go pay for the Grillbot, go purchase the product. It's going to be, as Ethan talked about, a great gift for your husband, for your spouse, whatever the case may be. And it's definitely going to be worth the money and more. It's going to last. He said he's still using one from 10 plus years ago. So it's definitely going to be the value, worth the value over time. So hopefully you guys
got tons of videos. You can see it in action. Go to YouTube, see it in action. But grillbots.com, you can reach out to us too with questions and stuff like that. And if it's directed to me, they'll send it to me and I'll answer them.
Nice. Yeah, I was checking out the reviews. A lot of great reviews on the product. And I think it was like over 3,100 kind of 5-star reviews or whatever the case may be. So 3,100 or something along those lines. But it was a lot of great reviews, a lot of people loving the product. And one of the things that I did notice, to your point, is the customer feedback, the customer service. I saw a lot of compliments on great customer service. I called with the question. They got back to me ASAP. So it was a lot of good things that I kind of saw in those reviews as it relates to customer service. So shouts out to that.
It's actually too bad we didn't talk about that at all because that the customer service is going to make or break you, especially with a product type company. So we take it extremely seriously. You can't please everybody in this world, but we go that extra mile. We really try hard. If something's out of warranty, someone's dead battery, whatever, 9 times out of 10 we're going to help them out. And if someone comes back to me 7 years later and did something wrong, I dropped it in the swimming pool, we're not helping. The customer service is I would say number 1, number 2 on the list of the most important things when running a company like this. Without that, you're dead.
And I 100%. I was interviewing a gentleman recently. He talked about, hey, I don't care about if people are going to try to copy my stuff because I know our customer service is going to be better. And a lot of time when maybe Chinese manufacturers try to copy it and sell it here in the U.S., clearly you're not being able to call and kind of talk to somebody over the phone in China. So that's going to give you a leg up there. But it seems like these days customer service is at a premium. That's regardless if it's a product or service business. You can have good customer service. You're just going to be, you're going to be a shoulder above the competition just because customer service is lacking a lot of times. And it seems like I said, just from me reviewing, looking at the reviews, your customer service has definitely been an A+. So shout out to you for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right, audience, we'll see you guys next time. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Take care. Peace.